have no bananas. We have no bananas today.
It was springtime on the Platte River Valley in the plains of eastern Colorado. It was 1926, before Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs in a season, before Lucky Lindy made the hop from New York to Paris, before the crash of '29. I guess these are the happy days they sang about a few years later. Happy days are here again. Willena Lee was born. Doc, her dad, was romantic and had names like Annabelle Lee floating in his head. Within a few years, things had changed. A lot. And Willena was there to see it.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Folks started riding the rails, and she saw her mom, Ethel, handing plates of food out the back door to some of those who hopped off in Fort Lupton. Too impatient to wait for school, she taught herself to read so she could read the funny papers. And every book in the town library, so she says, and I believe her. She also said those winters were cold. You would go outside on a clear day, she said, and just get mad at the sun up there, shining so bright and not doing a lick of good. All those books, and Willena was ready to launch herself onto the world. It was a new decade, a new war, an old president, and she went off to school at the University of Colorado. As a young law student, so the story goes, she was set up on a blind date with one Ray Knox, a pharmacy student. They didn't hit it off so well, but Ray thought she might like his friend, one Robert Leonard Leon, a young medical student. 60 plus years later, 4 children and 11 grandchildren, and I guess Ray was right. She found Bob pretty interesting. The war was over, the baby boom was on, and Lee and Bob had a daughter, Alexis Kay, born August 1948 in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where Bob, fresh out of medical school, was an intern. It wasn't long before another move back to Denver, and Lee had another child, Mark, April 21st, 1951. Circa 1953, the hot war had gone cold, America was getting cool, and the young family moved to Hartford, Connecticut for a few years. Then it was on to Kansas City, Missouri, where Lee purchased our first television, and Alexis gave me my first lesson in TV. We wanted to watch Cowboys and Cowgirls, but best of all,
Hey kids, what time is it? At home and all my kids in the gallery, let's go!
Lee wanted to watch the McCarthy hearings, but before long, lots of other stuff was beaming on that screen. And note, this was long before reality TV, long before Survivor or The Biggest Loser, but there was Queen for a day, and Willena lamented the vapid wasteland of the tube. She voted for the other guy and lost, but a more fun thing to consider, that in her right dress, she looked every bit this good.
As long as the guy's a millionaire.
It was time to sell this house and move south. Alexis and I cleaned up our DeSoto. Not quite as nice as a new one. And Percy Faith still sounds as great as he did yesterday. But things were changing. Everything was changing. Here's just one example. Down in Dallas, we got a 1957 Chevy station wagon, baby blue. By the summer of 1963, Lee had some information. She was a little nervous about delivering it. But we thought it was great. We were growing up, and a new family was arriving. John F. Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1993. Jeff was born less than 2 months later, in January 1964. His presence was already doing the job, making us feel better. Then Lee and Alexis showed me something else.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Alexis was in college. I still had a couple of years in high school. And Jeff, he was still daydreaming. In less than 2 years, we got our youngest sister, Stacy Lee. Meanwhile, Bob and Lee took us down south to San Antonio. Meanwhile, those two new kids were still thinking.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round.
And as the wife of the new chair, she was the hostess and the mostest. Well, time does march on. The kids left and married. This is the one Jeff chose. Pretty hot, huh? And that car is so cool. And here's Willina helping our medical student get ready. And here they are, visiting me and my wife Diane in Hawaii, where they really loved it. Free at last, free at last. And you can see from this photo that she's enjoying it. And this one too. She and Bob traveled the world until Bob passed away a few months ago. We're all still grieving, but no one as much as her. In any case, we still have a birthday to celebrate. Happy birthday, Mom. Yeah, I know that's not really her, that's Lauren McCall. But I think she would have looked at least that good.